Okay, we are going to take a look at the last part of chapter 15 and begin 16 today. So we're going to finish up with what decides the election. When we look at parties, Democratic voters have more defections than the Republicans do. Republicans, they tend to do much better among independent voters, and they have a higher percentage of participation in voting when compared to the Democrats. Now, we have some voting types. We have prospective voting occurs when you favor the ideas of a candidate or how he proposes to handle an actual issue. Retrospective issue is when you base your voting behavior after the candidate's past actions. So obviously the individual normally has to be an incumbent to be able to base it on that. Now sometimes you can do that too as well if he served in a different position and then moves to a different one. Okay, proximity is the concept of the candidate's belief mirroring the voter's beliefs. So in other words, like if you look over at the right with all the different buttons, the closer the proximity, or in other words, the closer the belief on each of those buttons on the right would actually relate to the individual. Okay, so you can have some overlap, obviously, with all three of these. Proximity and, to me, perspective can definitely be the closest that really has an overlap. And again, retrospective, you could look at the issues based on the proximity or the perspective and see what the individual's done and if they've kept their campaign promises. So again, you can kind of incorporate all of those together. Now, campaigns typically reawaken partisan loyalties. Okay, they also allow the constituents to see how the candidates can handle pressure, and it can also expose the candidate's core values. In other words, what he really believes in generally tends to come out during the campaign trail. Now, winning coalitions, when we look at the Democratic coalition, we generally see African Americans tend to be the most loyal voters, Jewish, and Hispanic. Now remember too, Hispanic, Cubans are not included in that. Okay, remember there are one exception of the Hispanics that actually vote Republican. Okay, Republican Party, we generally see businesses and professionals tend to cling together with the Republican Party. Now, as we enter into chapter 15, the interest groups, we're going to take a look at just some of the basics today of what defines and what creates an interest group. Okay, some factors of interest groups. You have broad economic developments. Okay, farmers, for example, are a really good example. They're politically active, and after they begin producing cash crops to try and again make more money. So again, that tie-in is one of the reasons that they are a really solid interest group. Okay. We also see government policy can occur when the government promotes an action like the American Farm Bureau Federation creation, which would serve the needs of farmers after the Civil War. So again, we generally see organizations and interest groups will help to create policy that actually will benefit the interest group. Okay, another aspect is social circumstance, and this is generally when someone exercises leadership and generally pays or uses their own personal cost. One example of this was Washington Gladden, pictured here on the right, who opposed Darwinism and actually championed the Christian gospel movement, which tried to eradicate the concept of evolution. Finally, you also have some more activities that are undertaken by the government, leads to more organized groups. When a government does something, in a lot of cases, you get a reaction to what the government has done, creating an interest group to oppose the action of the government. Okay, so that's not uncommon to see that form.